So, let's talk about AI, but not the AI that writes your emails or creates art. We're going to dive into how artificial intelligence is completely changing the face of modern warfare, and specifically, the absolutely terrifying speed at which it operates. All right, let's get right into it. I mean, just listen to that quote. Quicker than the speed of thought. That really hits home, doesn't it? We're not talking about things getting a little bit faster here. We're talking about a pace that literally outstrips our own ability to process what's happening. And that right there is the double-edged sword. Massive advantages, but also some incredibly serious risks. So there's a key concept we need to understand right up front. It's called decision compression. Think about it like this. Everything that used to take days or even weeks, finding a target, making sure it's a legal strike, getting the green light, all of that is now being squeezed or compressed into minutes, or scarily enough, even seconds. This right here, this is what's fueling this new hyperspeed of war.
Okay, so how are we going to break all this down? Well, we've got a roadmap. First, we'll look at this whole machine speed thing. Then, we'll ask, what even is military AI really? After that, we'll see how it's kicking off a new arms race. Then, we've got to talk about the big one, the risk of nuclear war. We'll also look at Silicon Valley's role in all of this. And finally, we'll wrap up by asking the million-dollar question. Who's actually in charge here? All right, let's jump into our first section, war at machine speed. It's one thing to talk about collapsing timelines, but what does that actually look like on the ground? How does this work? Well, it all boils down to something the military calls the kill chain. And AI is absolutely shredding the traditional timeline for it. Normally you'd have analysts spending days staring at satellite photos. Then it goes to the lawyers. Then a commander makes a call. It's a whole process. But now, imagine an AI system just hoovering up all that data at once. Drone feeds, intercepted comms, you name it. And in minutes, it spits out a recommendation. Here's your target. Here's the weapon to use. And, hey, here's the legal paperwork to go with it. Game changer. Okay, so AI is turbocharging the process, but what about the AI itself? When we say military AI, what are we actually talking about? Is it just killer robots? Or is it something more complex? Yeah, it's definitely not just one thing. It's more like a whole suite of different tools. You've got AI that's like a superpowered intelligence analyst just tearing through mountains of data that no human team could ever get through. You've got AI that makes drones and other systems smarter and more autonomous. Of course, it's the key to that whole decision speeding thing we talked about. And it even tries to predict the future, using surveillance to guess what the enemy's going to do next and helping to make targeting super, super precise. And right here, this is the central trade-off, isn't it? On one hand, the promise is huge. Godlike awareness of the battlefield, making decisions that are faster and supposedly better. But man, the downsides are just as big. These AIs can have biases baked right into them. They can be what experts call brittle, which basically means they work great until they don't. And then they fail in spectacular, catastrophic ways. Oh, and of course, they are a massive, juicy target for hackers. Now, none of this is happening in a lab somewhere totally isolated from the real world. Nope. This tech is front and center in a brand new AI-fueled arms race. And we can see exactly how it's playing out right now in a couple of the world's most dangerous hotspots. To really get what's going on here, you need to know about something called the security dilemma. It's this classic problem in geopolitics. Here's how it works. Country A builds a new AI system and says, hey, don't worry, it's just for defense. But its rival, Country B, looks at that and says, no way, that's a threat. So what does Country B do? They have to build their own, maybe even a better one. And just like that, you're in a dangerous spiral, with both sides building more and more advanced tech. And this whole dilemma forces countries to pick a strategy. You got the big players, the ones with deep pockets like Israel and India. They're going for what's called comprehensive integration. They're trying to bake AI into pretty much everything their military does. But then you have their rivals, like Iran and Pakistan. They can't just write a blank check, so they go for asymmetric adaptation. Basically, they look for clever, cheaper ways to fight back, thanks swarms of low-cost smart drones designed to overwhelm a much more expensive system. So when you look at these hotspots, like between Iran and Israel or India and Pakistan, you see this exact dynamic playing out. And here's the scary part. It doesn't really matter which strategy they choose. The end result is the same. AI squeezes that decision-making time down to almost nothing, which just massively cranks up the risk that someone makes a huge, fatal mistake in a place that's already a tinderbox. And that instability, well, it leads us straight to the most terrifying possibility of them all. We have to talk about nuclear weapons. So here's the big, scary question, and we just have to ask it. Let's say everyone agrees. No AI gets to touch the nuclear button. Ever. Okay, great. But could using AI in a regular, conventional war somehow, accidentally, tip us over the edge into a nuclear one? While the experts say there are basically three ways this could happen, you've got deliberate escalation, right? A country decides to go nuclear. Then there's accidental. A computer glitches, someone goes rogue. But the real danger zone for AI is this third one, inadvertent escalation. That's where you're not trying to start a nuclear war, but the actions your AI takes, moving at machine speed, push your enemy past their breaking point without you even realizing it. And the way this could happen is through a problem called entanglement. See, a lot of countries use the exact same satellites and command centers for both their regular military and their nuclear weapons. So imagine an AI-guided strike, moving way too fast for any human to really check it, takes out one of those dual-use systems. To you, it's a conventional attack, but to the other side, they might see it as you trying to blind their nuclear arsenal, and that could lead them to think, we have to launch now before we lose everything. You know, this reminds me of the incredible story of Stanislav Petrov. He was a Soviet officer back in 1983, and one night his early warning system went crazy, said the US had launched a full-scale nuclear attack. The book said he had to launch a counterattack immediately, but he just had this gut feeling. Something felt off. He trusted his intuition over the machine, and he held back. He might have literally saved the world that night. And that's the whole point, isn't it? An AI can crunch numbers like nobody's business, but it can't have a gut feeling. It doesn't have the capacity for human doubt. Now, it's easy to think this is all about generals and bunkers and world leaders, but that's not the whole story anymore. A huge amount of this power is being built and controlled in a totally different place. And to understand what's next, we have to look at the battles happening right now, in Silicon Valley boardrooms. I mean, just look at this timeline. It's dizzying. First, the Pentagon is using AI from a company called Anthropic. Then, reports come out that they're being pushed to drop some of their ethical safety rules. Anthropic says no, so the government basically tells its agencies to stop using them. And then, and this is wild, just hours later, who steps in? OpenAI, their biggest competitor, announcing a shiny new deal with the Pentagon. It's an absolutely stunning series of moves. And this really shows you the divide that's opening up. You've got Anthropic on one side, drawing a line in the sand. They basically said they couldn't, in good conscience, let their AI be used for certain military applications. But on the other side, you have OpenAI signing on the dotted line with the Pentagon. Now, to be fair, OpenAI says their agreement also prohibits those same dangerous uses. But the whole situation just shows you how incredibly tangled and high stakes the relationship between big tech and the military is becoming. So we've talked about speed, we've talked about risk, we've talked about what's happening in the tech world. All of this brings us to our final and maybe most important question. At the end of the day, who is really in control here? See, the easy answer is, oh, we'll just keep a human in the loop. But it's not that simple, because our own brains can trick us. We start doing this thing called cognitive offloading. We just get lazy and let the machine think for us. We also get automation bias, where we just blindly trust whatever the computer tells us, assuming it's right. And here's the biggest problem. The AI itself has zero context. It doesn't get history, it doesn't get morality, it has no concept of the nuclear taboo, that deep human understanding that some weapons are just too terrible to use. So really, we're at a crossroads. The fundamental question isn't just about the tech anymore. It's not about what the AI can do. The real question is about us. Can we actually build systems and create rules that let a human being stay in meaningful control? Especially when that machine is telling you that you have less than a second to make a life or death decision? Which leaves us with one final haunting thought. In a war that's increasingly fought by machines, what is the role of the human? Are we just there to rubber stamp the AI's choices? Or are we supposed to be that final, crucial failsafe, that last bit of human judgment, conscience, and maybe, most importantly, doubt?